What will businesses of the future look like when the thing that Lily Chang mentioned earlier has happened? She said in her earlier talk here today, the social from the web is moving into every part of business, and it's doing it in an unequal way with all kinds of very heterogeneous results. But you can cast your head forward 10 years and imagine that a lot of what we're seeing happening today on the social web in the open will find its way into business. And so I want to paint a picture of that. It's sort of a series of images and one-liners almost, because I don't have a fully coherent vision of exactly what it's going to be like. To some extent, that might be because I've been blogging now for 10 years, and I don't really do anything coherently anymore. It's just a sequence of comments. The web did it to me, But today we're at the start of something, one side of a bridge that's leading over to a dramatically different way of doing business. And then zooming back 10 years ago, I was investigating a product called a Buzz Beehive. Does anyone remember that? Literally 10 years ago, 1999. An investor. Oh, well, they were acquired by the New York Times, so you must have been happy. A happy investor. It was a collaboration tool, a conversational collaboration tool that was built on top of a sort of an open email model. But it really blew my mind. It was successfully acquired by the New York Times, where it was buried and never really came to much. But I realized when I was looking at this that I was looking at something profoundly different. It wasn't really about efficiency, per se, or number crunching, or customer satisfaction. It was attempting to shape culture. I wrote the last copy of my electronic newsletter in which I introduced the term social tools, and I said a new category of software is emerging, software intended to augment social systems. I call these social tools. It has replaced the group as the basic irreducible particle. And what that means is that our rights and responsibilities do not derive from membership in groups. They're inalienable. They derive from our existence and participation in the network. Of course, individuals immediately start to form relationships with other people, and that's channeled by what the social tools actually allow you to do. And so that is exactly how it is that these tools can come to shape culture, because it shapes the nature of the relationships we can have with other people. And then, of course, you have to remember that it's through other people that we are made human. That's the critical thing that's been the magic of connectedness on the web, is that we feel that we define ourselves through the relationships we have with others that are important to us. The social business that is coming is going to be much more like a village than an army. They aren't really going to be structured to conquer other companies, to conquer other villages. That's not what villages are designed to do. They won't operate like football teams. Mostly businesses are going to be more fluid and less solid, with people inside of them competing and cooperating for resources, making deals, making agreements, exchanging goods and services, dating, raising families, building things up and tearing things down, everything like a city. And bigger businesses will be scaling how they operate from this kind of social scale of belonging, the notion that people are connecting with other people to get things done, and that they're coordinating their work based on the personal decisions that they're making. So this is going to be a fractal kind of scaling, where the same sorts of organizational principles are at work in the large as works in the small. And this is really how all bottom-up things work, which is something we have learned to date from the web. So the rage now, the discussion about the real-time web. Why is the real-time web interesting? Well, the interesting thing about real-time isn't that what is important is fleeting, although if you look at something like Twitter, and you can only search now 2 days back in time. Someone just said 2 weeks, I'm sorry. Twitter search only goes back 2 days now. Of course, Google and Bing and other people are going to sort of solve that for us. But the thing that's important about real-time is not that things are fleeting. The salient attribute is that what is breaking in things like Twitter or Facebook or MySpace or wherever. It's brand spanking new. The latest tweet or message was typed only minutes ago, and people have a benefit, an incentive, to know about those things as soon as they start to happen. Because a rising trend that could be highly critical to some business starts as a single tweet or a single post or a single comment. And then there's a small group of followers who see that and pass it along. And so the point where the pebble hits the surface and starts the ripples is incredibly important for businesses to keep track of. And because they can and will, everyone else has to step up to that same tempo, because otherwise you're behind. My favorite example of that is the CNN reruns running that weekend when the Iranian demonstrations were happening, and it was very big on the web, and CNN was running reruns of something, and it wasn't even about Iran. So the company that originally positioned itself as real-time news source was at least 12 or 14 hours behind, and as a result, their brand is coming into question. So people are trying hard to hear the earliest whispers of things that are critical. And that makes small talk big again, because you have to find that first cluster of people out there that are talking about your brand of shoes or why your airline customer service is so bad. Meaning is the new search. Because of the nature of abundance economics, we really won't be relying on search in the future. I mean, we're relying on search today, don't get me wrong. It's how we find a tremendous amount of things. But search is based on scarcity, and that's why search is starting to fail. Because we have an infinity of information sources now on the web. And when search was originally dreamed up, you were trying to find anything that could give you the answer to your question, and now you'll search and you'll get 1,679,000 results. So what that really means is we're heading for a world where all the critical information that's relevant to you is available publicly, and the most important breaking news is only a few seconds away from you at the most. In this world, the problem won't be finding what you want. It's minimizing the torrent so you can have a small number of things to look at. And this is going to be just as true inside of a 10,000-person company as it is on the open web. So we're going to have to switch to something else to filter these things, and the likely candidate in a social web is social connections. That we'll switch to relying on things finding their way to us through our social relationships. Bruce Sterling said, our networks will become engines of meaning. These are going to be the sources of what's important, rather than doing a search. Things as, who was it earlier? I think it was Eric, who said the important things will find you. They were referring to Fred Wilson's famous post of 6 months ago. And perhaps one of the most important factors or facets of this hypothetical world I'm envisioning is that with ubiquitous high-speed bandwidth, highly connected mobile devices, time becomes the new space. I, like many other people, have said the web is sort of a shared space, the third place, like Ray Oldenburg talked about, the anthropologist. But actually, I think that's wrong now. I disagree with my own comments of a few years ago. We're not really sharing space online, where the conventional wisdom says we are. We're sharing time, increasingly. Time has become a shared resource. Our time is increasingly not our own. And I mean that in a good way. As we moved into the streamed model of connection, that we're sharing an experience of time and the flow of information and relationship through that. So individual